my, hello. This is totally unexpected. But while we're here, and as long as you're here, we may as well brew beer today. But I just don't know what kind of beer to brew. And in these times like this, I like to channel Jimi Hendrix. See, what would Jimmy brew? What would Jimmy brew? What would Jimmy brew?
Oh, you should brew an IPA, baby! That's my kind of beer! Oh, yeah!
Alright.
Oh, hi. What's up,
How
buddy?
you doing? Oh,
Good.
tell it. This is John, also for Beer No Evil Brewing Company. And myself. I wasn't expecting this. Sorry. Oh my goodness, I'm wearing clothes. So today what we're going to do is, it's a little thing called Brewing Tips and Tricks. Over the years, we've brewed a lot of bad beer.
A lot.
Now, not necessarily bad, but beer that you would not find at a microbrewery, beer you would not buy, and if you ordered a pint at a pub, you would not order a second one of these pints. So what we're going to do today is show you what we do now to emulate a process that is very similar to what you would find in a microbrewery. We've taken time out of our work days, taken time off to go to breweries around the local area, like out in Norwich, and we've brewed there. Recently, there has been another brewery open up in Barrie. You know, we take the tour with the owner, and he shows us all the little gadgets and things. And what we're going to do is show you how you can use homebrew equipment to imitate the gadgets that you see in these microbreweries.
Come along with us.
Come along for the tour. Hi, now one of the first mistakes that people make is in recipe formulation. If you can, try and relate this to cooking. If you're going to put in sage and parsley and rosemary and thyme and cayenne pepper, and I'm sorry, I haven't watched Food Network in a long time. Those are the only spices I know off the top of my head. Salt and pepper, there's two more. If you use them all together, you don't really taste any one spice. And the same can be said for recipes when homebrewing. So what I'm trying to say is keep your recipes simple. Our recipe today for the IPA, 90% pale, Maris Otter, grown right here in our beautiful region. 10% Munich, light Munich malt. So it's 90-10, that's it.
All right, we are at 63 degrees centigrade. By my calculations, that's 145.4 Fahrenheit. Now we're mashing 145 today. You might think to yourself, that's kind of low. But the truth is most home brewers mash at too high of temperatures. Home brewers tended to mash, and you guys probably know, you hear, oh, 152, 154, even 156 for a porter maybe, or a stout. But we found those are too high of temperatures. If you mash lower, you get a better fermentation, you get a drier beer, you get a better beer. If you try all the beers in the store, you go to the pubs, they're typically drier beers. You may not notice it, but they are. We like to mash at 149 for most of our beers. Today, this is a really big beer we're making. American Double IPA. We want to make sure we get just the best fermentation we can possibly get. We're using 100% base malt, as we already said, and we just want to get plenty of the sugars that are easily eaten by the yeast. We want to make sure we get a perfect fermentation. So we're going with 145. That's what Matt Brindleson does. He's the head brewer at Firestone Walker. So if it's good enough for him, then it's good enough for me.
Right now we're starting to sparge. And you'll notice that there are some hops in the sparge in our copper right here. Can you come over here and get a picture of that? So we got the hops in there. The only reason why we do that is not to add more hop bitterness or anything. It's just to basically, you've got to keep the boil down. It's just something to keep the foam down from boiling over on your stove. The other thing we put on here is we put in a teaspoon and a half of gypsum and half a teaspoon of calcium chloride. The gypsum helps the hops come out into your beer, and the calcium chloride, it's the chloride bit, that helps with mouthfeel. The calcium in both of those things, gypsum is calcium and sulfate, calcium chloride, obviously calcium chloride. The calcium helps yeast health, gives them a little bit of something to eat, and the sulfate helps the hops, calcium chloride, or the chloride helps the mouthfeel. I like to put them in here. Now, speaking of yeast, we've went ahead and we've harvested the yeast from a previous batch. Now, this would be a batch English Pale Ale that we're going to take around to the couple local brew pubs and that sort of thing. It's an American take on an English style. An English style being like pretty much any ale. Ales basically came from here, and we should love the English for creating ale, otherwise we'd all be drinking lager. So the next time you see a Brit, give them a hug. I'm not talking like an awkward one, but like a little quick man hug would be awesome. They would appreciate that. This is plenty of yeast to ferment out a large beer like that. If you're going to do a beer like a Union Jack that's going to have a starting gravity of 1.070 or 17 Plato, whichever you prefer, you need a large amount of yeast, and we just happen to have it.
Alright guys, so what I want to talk about next is the boil. Now I know most people when they boil their homebrew, we've done it before, many times. Most people when they boil their homebrew, it's going nuts. It's bubbling up, it's boiling over. I want you to come and take a look at this boil right here. This is just about perfect. You see how it's kind of rolling just a little bit? That's what they do at the microbreweries. We're killing our beers when we boil them too harshly. We're making the sugars where they're just too difficult for the yeast to eat, and we're just getting a poor fermentation. We're getting residual sweetness in our beer, kettle caramelization, things that we don't normally want.
Okay, so now we've done a 90-minute boil. Now this is one of the things that happens in a microbrewery is you don't notice a lot of hop oils escaping. The flavor oils and the aroma oil especially are very volatile, so you don't want to let them escape. So what we've done is we put, and I'm not going to lift the lid, they're in there, trust me. I put in some hops into this kettle right here. The gases and fumes are not escaping. Then it comes, what's coming through here is whirlpooling. Picture your bathtub. Stuff is going down the sink, right? When it eventually gets in a little, it's whirlpooling. Whirlpooling is what they do in microbreweries. You'll see any microbrewery will say, oh, we whirlpool for 20 minutes. What we do is let things out of here for roughly 20 minutes. So, okay, we don't let any oils out. It comes through here, through this thing called a hop back. The hop back has hops in it, right? So the hops are trapped, the oils are trapped under this lid. Nothing is escaping. Immediately it comes down through this pump, down through our counterflow wort chiller. Wort goes into this counterflow chiller at roughly 205 degrees, 207 degrees, or roughly 98 degrees C. And it comes out over here on this end. If you could feel this, it would like make your nipples hard. It is like cold, very cold, like ice. So that's what we're doing. We're cooling it down as fast as we can. We are locking in those oils. Now this is a system that you want to try and get at your house, something like this, in order to lock in those oils. We're making an IPA, and there are ways around it. What you can do, if you like, and you have lots of money, you can put in 30-minute hops, 20-minute hops, 10-minute hops, 5-minute hops, 0-minute hops. And then eventually you will get all these flavors in there. And it costs a lot of money, and this is just like shaking the immersion chiller up and down as fast as you can to get it cooled down as fast as you can in order to lock in as many of these oils as you can lock in. And this is one of the keys to making beer like they would in a microbrewery. This mimics their system.
Especially if you're making a pale ale or a British bitter or an amber ale, things like that. It's absolutely key to have this system, to have the hop back, to have it running through a counterflow chiller, something that's going to kill it instantly, get it down to a nice cool temperature. So something else I wanted to mention, when we're going through our hop back here, even if you're not using a hop back for the late hop additions, if you don't want the flavor, it's still really good and a great thing to have for filtration. So we have a filter in the bottom of this pot here, and it's going through that filter into our hops. The hops are acting as a filter, and then there's another filter in the bottom of this, and it's coming out just very clean, very like crisp, excellent beer. It keeps out the hop break, the cold break, all the junk and grains that normally get into a home brew. It keeps out of the beer.
All right, now what we're doing now, because this is such a big beer, we just measured it with the hydrometer. We're currently sitting at 1070, like we had hoped. According to our Tasty Brew calculator, it worked just fine. You can see how fast this is coming out, very slowly, right there, out of the tube. We have an aquarium pump here, pumping oxygen into our wort. We are aerating the heck out of it. You notice how cold is coming, or how small it's coming out. That serves two purposes. One, it allows it to steepen the hop back. Two, it allows for the whirlpool to take effect in our copper kettle. Look at how well aerated that is. We aerate it for roughly 4 or 5 minutes. That is aeration, and you need it for something like this. And if you look at this, that is plenty of yeast. That is a ton of yeast. It's very homogeneous. You know, sometimes there's gunk in it, but because we use a hop back, not as much gunk gets through into our wort. And we'll leave a little bit at the bottom because we don't want to put everything. And that's pretty much it. The time right now is 8:45. We'll pop a lid on this. This thing will start fermenting probably by about 11 o'clock. In about 2 hours, it'll start actually bubbling. We'll see fermentation. In the meantime, well, it's getting on time for us to rock. All right, well today we brewed Firestone Walker Union Jack IPA. We've done a good mash. We have done a low mash. We've kept the recipe simple. We've added hops a little bit at the beginning, a lot at the end. We preserved our aroma hops. We preserved our flavor hops. The only thing we've forgotten to do is bring our guitars, John.
Sorry guys.
So what we're going to do is rock the only other way we know how, because we've had a good brew day. Now it's time where Beer No Evil decides to rock.